Hello, and welcome to Retention Chronicles, the customer retention podcast for e-commerce marketers. I am your host and fellow e-com marketer, Mariah Parsons. Tune in as I speak with D2C founders and operators about strategy that works and strategy that doesn't. Of course, we are able to have these conversations because of our podcast sponsor, Malomo.
Hi, I'm Alicia, the founder of Midstoppers. We're a fast-growing baseball brand with a very small team, and Malomo has been a lifesaver. My customers love the detailed shipping updates, and so do I. My Wizmo tickets are way down, and the problem orders triggers is especially helpful when a shipping delay occurs. And I want them to know we know what's happening and that we're on top of it. I don't recommend software lightly, and I've kept a very minimal tech stack. But if you want your shipping notifications to reduce support tickets and drive repeat purchases like mine do, you'll definitely want to check out Malomo. You can learn more at gomalomo.com. That's GOMALOMO.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Retention Chronicles. I'm psyched for today's episode. Jen, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited to have you here. And as our listeners know, I like to pass off the microphone to give you all the time to make your intro, tell us who you are. So thank you again for joining. And here's the metaphorical microphone being passed to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I appreciate the invite. I always get a kick out of joining fun podcasts and just having cool conversations with people in the space that I live in every day. So this is always fun for me. I guess a little bit about myself. I'm a co-founder at Brixy. We started Brixy back in 2022. Took about a year of working on it to get it really going. So I feel like, we've been working on it for about four and a half years now. And we make natural products that are more sustainable. So everything we make comes in plastic-free, really amazing packaging that's fully recyclable, compostable, and all that jazz. So we're not harming the planet. But how I got into this, I was actually working in Austin, Texas in tech, and I was in sales. And my husband, Kevin, is the true entrepreneur of the group. He was running a company called Think Baby and Think Sport. And after 15 years of running that company, it was acquired. And so he looked out into the world and said, what problem do I want to solve next? Because he started Think with the mission of providing safer ingredients, safer products with safer ingredients in categories that didn't have any safe options. So he started that company back in 2006. It was pre-clean, safe beauty, personal care movement before consumers really knew to watch out for endocrine disruptors and all of that. And so he was working in a lab funded by the National Institutes of Health. They were studying the effects of potential endocrine disrupting chemicals like BPA and phthalates. Science showing that they were, harmful in our bodies. He took it to baby companies because kids and babies are most harmed by potential, ingredients like that because their systems are so delicate and they're growing and developing. And none of the companies wanted to change their ingredients. They didn't want to get rid of plastic in their packaging. They said, nah, we're good. And so that started him down the road of creating safe options for babies and athletes. And 15 years later, sold the company. And he said, you know what? I'm really sick of seeing walls and walls of plastic lining shelves at grocery stores and markets, and everywhere you go, you have to choose between all these different plastic bottle options for your personal care routine. And he said, I want to solve that. So he took his head of sales at Think, Trey, his business partner, and then he scooped me out of tech. And he said, hey, come do sales for me, do sales and marketing. Let's work out of coffee shops and run a mission-driven brand. And I think that was the fastest yes, let's do it I've ever said. So that's kind of the rest is history. I've been working on Brixy the last 4 years now, and it's been very fun and very rewarding. I specifically manage marketing and I do product development. I was doing sales in the beginning, and once I stepped away from that and let Trey handle all of the sales, we wanted me to focus on marketing. So that's kind of my world now.
Okay, very fun worlds. I love that you and I have similarities of working in the tech ecosystem, having that background, and then getting to see the brand side of things, because there's a lot a lot of parallels that you can draw between B2B and B2C marketing. And so I think that's a fun thing for us to relate on. How would you say, once you said that quickest yes of your life and you're like, I'm on board, let's work, coffee shops, entrepreneurship, all that fun stuff, what was kind of the biggest shift for you of going from B2B to B2C marketing and sales at the time?
So at Brixy, we're not a true like D2C brand. We really started with going into retail as our primary focus. So it really had a lot of that B2B element, and like a lot of the skills that I used in tech, I just translated over into the health and natural world and the retailer world. So that was actually pretty easy and pretty streamlined for me, because people are people and you just treat them the way that you would in any sales situation, get the result that you're hoping for. So that was pretty easy for me. I think walking into like the D2C realm was the most learning curve that I had, but being in tech also really helped me acclimate really quickly, like to all of the apps and the Shopify and the tools that you use to drive incremental business in D2C, and like how do you get in front of customers, how do you retain them, all of the tools that brands were using. And by the way, those tools are ever changing, right? Like they're always evolving their feature set, or there's new ones coming up that are kind of taking over maybe apps that are not evolving, so it's always an ever changing thing. So I felt a little bit, I wouldn't say nervous, but just I knew that I didn't know a lot and I had to really get to know it pretty quickly. But my role in tech also helped me feel confident enough that I could figure it out. And so now I just try to stay up to date on everything as much as I can. And luckily we've chosen some tools that have been really great and very user friendly, which I feel like is huge. So the more user friendly you can make an app or a tool to help automate your life, like the better it is for a founder.
Yes, yeah, fully. And I love if you want to give those shout outs to what you use, you are very, very welcome to do so, because I know founders that listen are like, I love to hear when other people, like peers in the space, are like, I love this app, it's user friendly. So I will leave that space for you there if you want to take it.
Yeah, a couple that I'll mention that we use Smile.io for our reviews and our affiliates and our referral program and stuff like that. I really like it. I know that there's a lot of great tools out there. The Smile.io is the one that we've selected and used. And then really like Shogun. So Shogun has been sort of like I don't know if it's an app necessarily, but it's like an addition to our Shopify store. So I've been managing and building our website for a while now and had no experience doing that. And so Shopify has made it super easy and user friendly to build a site. But coming in without being a developer or anything like that, I've been able to use something like a Shogun to really build out our product pages in a way that takes the customer on a journey, answers all their questions, and gives us sort of like the feel and the vibe that we want while giving them all the information they need to make a purchasing decision. So those are the two that come to mind for our website.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely know the Smile.io team, but I need to look into Shogun more, because I feel like I heard it from another founder and I'm blanking on who it was, but yeah, I need to look into their team, because like you said, it is always always adapting, always fun. There's a full-time, role and job of like just staying up to date with apps, not even, just like iterating on new apps that you need for your tech stack, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we've rolled through a few different apps for like our quiz that we have on our website to help customers figure out what product works for their hair and skin type. Also like an SEO app to make sure that we're optimizing our site properly. I won't mention those just because we've kind of changed and tried different apps along the way. So I'm not like committed to anyone in particular in those two regards. But there's so many to choose from, and I just really appreciate how Shopify's kind of put it all together and made it really easy to evaluate, test, and make decisions. So I love that. I think that's the best and most respectable way to go about it, because there's just so many different avenues and everything, and that's what makes it all a fun little ecosystem in the Shopify world. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about your brand, because I know obviously, like, tell us a little bit more about the product to give context, and then we'll go into kind of the strategy. Cool. So I'm going to tell you about the product that we're launching in June, because we really do anticipate that being our best-selling SKUs. When we launched Brixy back in 2022, we launched at Expo West before we hit the market yet, and we were showing our shampoo, conditioner, and our body wash bars. So we started with hair care, shampoo, conditioner bars, and then some body wash bars to complement them. And basically we wanted to start with like a full shower routine for hair and body. And at that show, we actually got approved to go national at Sprouts. We've got approved into our first major distributor in the US. So it really catapulted us into the world of health and natural retail really nicely. Along the way, we launched a line of facial cleansers, so soap-free facial cleansers that come in bar form. They look like little soaps, but there are no soap ingredients in them. So we launched those. Then we launched a few new shampoo SKUs, accessories to travel and store these bars in. But we're about to launch our most exciting line yet, and that's our magnesium-enriched deodorants. And there's a lot of reasons why we're most excited about this particular launch, but specifically in the world of sustainable personal care, shampoo and conditioners require a behavior change when you look at using them in a bar form, because everyone is so used to squeezing a plastic bottle and having a liquid come out into their hand that they go on their hair, and the rest is history. For us, we're trying to educate consumers that the bar you're looking at has shampoo ingredients, but then there's an application change. You're taking a bar to your head versus squeezing a bottle. So there's a little bit of a behavior change, which requires a little bit of education around ingredients, usage, experience, all of that. Deodorant doesn't have any of that. So our products are going to come in plastic packaging. I actually have one right here. I'll just show you.
Ooh, oh my gosh, so pretty.
Yeah, it's going to come in plastic packaging, plastic-free packaging, sorry.
I was going to ask, I was like, wait, I think you mean...
Yeah, it's the same though. You just, you use it the way you use any deodorant.
And I think, that's very user-friendly. You're completely right.
Yeah, so that's we want the deodorant we expect it to be our mainstay SKUs and to become our top sellers because there is no barrier to entry. People know how to use it. It's also, not a natural deodorant, it's mostly natural, but we do use some synthetics because they work and because they're safe. So that whole world of natural deodorants people have said don't work for me, it's not going to apply to this. And it works amazing. I've been testing it for months now and I just can't use anything else. So
there you go.
I'm biased, but
But you got to do it, right? Yeah. And I love that it's magnesium enriched, because I feel like there's been a movement around educating around needing more magnesium in our diets and supplements and all that stuff. So, and I know the skin under your armpits is very, I don't know if the right word is vulnerable, but very susceptible to absorption. And so, I think that will be really fun to see magnesium enriched deodorant, because I'm just kind of starting to see that conversation happen.
Magnesium is trending for so many different health benefits, and it's been trending. It's been having its moment, but that moment is not going away for all the reasons you mentioned. I mean, it helps with so many things internally, but topically on the skin, it actually helps neutralize odor-causing bacteria really effectively. Magnesium is you know how they have superfoods? It's like a super mineral. It does all the things. And it's been really fun to test out with it and figure out how to integrate it into the other bioactive ingredients in our formulas and really maximize the skin health benefit too. And we went through iterations of ingredient combinations, knowing we were going to use magnesium as our base, and that was our hero ingredient, but making sure that we were taking care of the underarm ecosystem, so balancing pH and the skin barrier, because it's also skin and absorption, and how do you create the right slip and feel and non-greasy finish, all the things people want in deodorants. So it's been a really fun journey with this category of deodorant. We're very excited about it, and I mention it so much because it's going to become our mainstay SKU. It's going to be what we talk about on our socials, what we message on our email and SMS campaigns to our customer base. It's going to be where we go from here. So we're really excited about it.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And I love, before I move us along into talking about strategy, I love that you brought up the difference of education for products, because I will bring in my experience on the tech side of things for Malomo of a lot of me as a marketer is just educating people, and then people see a product, they're like, oh yeah, I really like that. But the education is the highest barrier of entry. So when you were talking about difference of application for a shampoo bar versus a deodorant, which people are already familiar with the application process, it really just rang true for me personally. Yeah. And I use shampoo bars personally, as a consumer, and you definitely have to get the application process right. But then, like you said, once you get it, it's easier. You know the different application process, but for a little bit of time, it's oh, you're getting used to it. You have a bar on your head. You're how do my hands run it through your hair, all that stuff.
It's funny, the face and the gestures you just made is what we get every time, 100%. Everyone does the same thing. It's but how do I do it, you know?
It's like, how do I keep it on my head? It's
Yeah.
like, well, you just like run it back a couple times.
Yeah. I like to tell everyone, like, don't be afraid. Just get everything wet and it'll come to you. Like,
Yes.
just get everything wet, start rubbing the bar, you'll get it. Like, it's
Exactly. Yeah. So it is a little bit of trial and error, but then, for those consumers who are like, no, I want a plastic-free option, then they're like determined enough to, figure it out.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I mean, I've been using shampoo and conditioner bars for years now, so to me, it feels like just natural.
Yeah.
But I
You
do
have that
remember the
muscle
start.
memory.
I remember getting started, and it did not feel natural. And I was like, what am I doing? But I want to do better, and let's just give it a shot. And I was really amazed with like the efficacy and how far the shampoo bar category at large has come. They're not bars of soap. Like, they are true shampoo concentrates. And I've tried all the different brands that I admire in their plastic-free mission, and I've tried like all of our competitors, and I have to say, like, I'm just really thrilled with how great the category overall is doing in terms of like efficacy and beauty output. And so that was big for me. I was just not willing to compromise in the beginning. I was like, I'm not doing it unless it works. And it worked. So
Yeah.
Very happy about that.
There you go. Biggest relief, I'm sure, one of them. Okay, so now let's dive into the strategy side of this podcast now that we have some context on you and your brand. So as you know, we will focus mostly on customer retention, which I think will be really interesting to hear, especially as you're rolling out a new product, how you are retaining customers, obviously through product development, but other strategies. But to get there, I always like to take a stop at acquisition first. So give us a little bit of context, a little bit of background on what works for you guys. You mentioned Expo West was a huge kind of launch pad for you guys when you were just starting out. Give us a little bit more details there.
Yeah, so earlier I mentioned that when we launched, we really launched with a focus of retail and getting into retail as our first form of like distribution. And we didn't so much place that much weight on D2C. We were coming out of COVID. Everyone, all the brands that had started at COVID were hardcore D2C, for a lot of good reasons. But we were at that point where we felt like, okay, people are coming out. They want to go back into stores. We need to be there and meet them there. So we do events. So that's kind of how we get our retailers. We do Expo West. We do tabletops at distributors. But we also do in-person events for our D2C channel and just to help spread word of mouth. And we're a small team, so we don't do a ton of those, but we do them in our local communities, like in Utah and then in California where Trey, our CEO, lives. And so we kind of hit like these two really great markets for our type of business, a sustainable minded business. Those two markets are great. And so we use the retail, we use the expos and the events and stuff for retailers to get into our partners. And then we use those consumer events to build awareness for our brands. But we also do a lot online too. So the first couple of years, I'd say we were super heavy on like Meta ads, not so much on TikTok. TikTok's going to be something we dive into this summer actually, but we wanted to be more visible on Instagram specifically because that's where our buyers in retail were. They looked at their brands on that particular social channel, so that's really where we put our focus. But that's kind of how we work to get customer acquisition. We played around with some other events even outside of our world, like we did the Magic event, which is mostly fashion, but it supplied a lot of boutiques and like one-off like shops across the US that have clothing, but also maybe small beauty sets. And that worked okay for us. I'd say we definitely broke even at that show, but we just didn't have the foot traffic in our small little health personal care area. Like the whole show was just so big and it was really focused on fashion. So most of the buyers tended to stay there, but it was definitely worth, trying out. So yeah, that's kind of how we handle finding customers, both B2B and D2C.
Okay, amazing. I've heard, so I haven't been to Magic, but I've also heard, a couple of people mention it and say it's ginormous and all those things. But like you said, focused primarily in a tangential market to you guys. So that makes sense.
I think that those shows are probably really great for somebody like Poppy and Pout is a plastic-free lip care line.
I actually have them sitting on my desk right now.
Yeah, I do too. I've got them. I've got a couple somewhere.
I'm like, where is it?
Yeah, we love them. They're actually based in our neighboring state, Idaho, and they were there and they are killing it just in the boutiques and like, they're a great add-on at checkout, like you can have a little stand of lip balms. They're plastic-free, makes you feel good. You can just throw it in your bag. It's not that high of a price point. So something like that I think works really well it like a magic type trade show for the boutique type buyer. I don't think we would do it again just because we were so heavily invested in like hair at the time. And it wasn't really something people go into clothing boutiques to buy. So, but yeah, there's an expo and there's an event for everyone out there. You just got to find the ones that work best for your brand.
Yeah, exactly. I love that message. And so I want to tie it back into just what you were saying about, Instagram versus TikTok and where your buyers are, which is an interesting, because obviously on this podcast, it is a very D2C focused podcast. A lot of brands have their retail arms or start in retail and then get into D2C or vice versa. So there's a ton of overlap, right? But there are some differences. And I think with all the events that I've been going to, such as Expo West and Sweeten Snacks and more events, as we're coming up in June, it is prevalent to me that buyers and consumers, like those being the two different poles that you are looking to, entertain on social media or like quote unquote acquire, is super interesting that they're on Instagram. Searching, like they want to see the traction on Instagram. I think TikTok, they'll eventually move to wanting to see traction on there as well, but just because it's a newer platform, I think it's an interesting way to hear you kind of depict like, okay, going on Instagram for a buyer per se versus going on TikTok for like a newer approach to things.
Yeah, for sure. I also think, depending on if you're a retail buyer, depending on what retailer you're at may determine where you look at a brand's social presence to evaluate whether you bring them in or not. For example, like, the health and natural channel might have a little bit higher of an age range, a little bit, older, because they might have a higher price point, right? So like Whole Foods, for example, I don't know what their exact demographic is for their customers, but I imagine it's female and it's probably skews older with more accessible income, right? So they might look to Instagram and see how you're doing on Instagram to see if are you going to be supporting them there where their shoppers are when they are on social. Versus like, I don't know, perhaps a different mass retailer with a younger demographic might care more about TikTok because they're getting more of like the younger crowd and the trending things, and they want to see you getting community built on TikTok so that you can support the launch in their stores because that's where their shoppers are at. So it's all and it's always changing too. Like every generation it's changing. So you got to keep up with the times in that. But we've definitely noticed a lot more interest from buyers this last year, I think, than years prior in terms of wanting to know, like, how are you going to support us with a launch in our stores on social media? How are you going to bring people to us through social media and your presence in your community there? So that's been a really, honestly, a fun conversation to have. But yeah, I think with Instagram, that's kind of why we focused there, was our retailers specifically lived there and cared more about that one. We're really have a goal of growing our D2C channel. Now that we're in like 2,800 doors across the US in the health and natural channel, we really want to grow our D2C. And so we're actually turning to TikTok for that. So we're about to turn up some big stuff on TikTok with our deodorant launch next month that I'm very excited about, and really give that channel the attention it deserves, because everyone hears about TikTok Shop left and right these days and the success stories on it. And I think that we're going to be going after kind of a younger demographic. Our packaging is obviously super fun and young and vibrant and joyful, and we want to make sure that we're meeting everyone kind of where they are. So TikTok's going to be a new adventure for us this year.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited to, watch you guys, see the content, see the product rollout, all that fun stuff. And you're completely right that I think, one, like your product is something that can be on TikTok Shop. I think like obviously certain products do not warrant themselves well to that business model. Yeah. But like deodorant, I definitely see the use case there, and people want to learn about why they should care about what they're putting on their body and all that fun stuff. The education on that app. Sure, there's a lot of other things on there too, but like just educating people and the discoverability, because that's what the app is built for, is really interesting. So I'm excited for you guys, and we'll be cheering you guys on for sure. Of course. Okay, so that was a great summary about acquisition and kind of, a lot of different aspects that all feed into acquisition. And now I want to transition us to retention. So walk me through like how you're thinking about retention right now, and then is that going to change when you're, developing your SKUs or adding more SKUs to your brand?
Yeah, so with regards to retention, kind of how we were handling it up to this point was pretty standard basic stuff. Like we would get somebody to our website, they'd make a purchase, we'd capture their email and their SMS, we'd remarket to them through Klaviyo. But that was really kind of where it ended. We didn't have a lot of different arms. And because we were so focused on retail customers and sending people on socials to our retailers, it just wasn't something we had prioritized. But that is definitely going to change. So with our new launches, we're definitely focusing more on that retention piece. We're turning up some of the things that we're doing through Klaviyo. So we're going to be in getting better segmentation of our customer lists. Up to this point, it's kind of just been like remarketing campaigns going out to everyone, but it's really not the way to do it. I've known that for a long time. It's something that we've needed to improve on. And so we're going to get really specific with our customer segmentation through that app, if you will. Is it an app? But through
app, yeah.
We're messaging the right thing to bring people back to our site. We're also going to be doing really fun bundles, some potential like exclusives and different things that are like time sensitive or like single drop only scents and stuff like that to kind of get people excited and build some hype around that particular SKU drop. Yeah, and then we're also going to be doing more like founder content on TikTok, and that's going to be a way that we really try to build more of a community and like have conversations on the app, because that's something that I think will definitely help with brand loyalty. And then just, by offering hopefully helpful content and engaging and entertaining content, then people will want to follow us and support along the way and hopefully try the product out eventually. And so that's going to be something we're really turning on. TikTok Shop specifically, which, once you get that turned on, there'll be a lot of stuff on our channel on like deals, flash sales, and things like that, just to, again, generate buzz and excitement, and hopefully bring people back to Brixy.
Yes.
As returning customers.
Yep. Yeah, I love it. So obviously a lot of, like you said, email, SMS, that is like the table stakes, right? Obviously segmentation, you can do a lot more with that. Always exciting to see how you can segment different customer lists and be like, ooh, would this be intriguing for this customer profile? But a big part of TikTok, and I want to focus here because I think it'll be fun to kind of talk about it right now, and then the launch is so soon that, it's very top of mind for you, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. But with TikTok, there's obviously a big potential for UGC opportunities. Mm-hmm. Of whether it's paid or gifted or organic. How is that going to be part of your customer retention strategy of trying to pull people in that way and like loyalty and all that stuff?
It will, yeah. So all last year we used an agency to help us source UGC through Instagram, some TikTok, but mainly Instagram. But we're definitely going to be doing that through TikTok now moving forward. And they have like a pretty great, robust affiliate backend where you can search for the right partners, set up your affiliate commissions, and really find folks that want to try and want to share your product and hopefully turn into ambassadors that are like real proponents of the brand over time. So that's absolutely going to be part of the strategy to also just expand reach. So it's not just, the Brixy TikTok trying to get in front of eyeballs. It's going to be all these actual people really trying the product and using it. So we'll be seeding creators. We'll be offering, a baseline commission for anyone that wants to just promote our products naturally, but also working with very targeted, specific creators, hopefully long term, and building relationships there with a different commission structure in place for them. And that's going to be definitely a big way that we help grow our sales on TikTok, brand awareness, and return customers. We'll also be reinvesting again. And the last few months, we haven't really had a lot of digital advertising going on or social advertising going on, but that will get turned up again with our launch. And it'll be specifically focused on, TikTok, I think, is going to be our primary there in terms of ad spend for social ads. And really, it's going to be hopefully boosting and sparking some of these great creators that we work with and using their UGC content, because that's, trending to be more converting than brand content these days, which I totally get, because as a consumer, if I see something from a brand, I see something from a brand. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't, but I know it's a brand. I know they're selling to me. But if I see something from a creator, like, they don't have to do that. Maybe they're getting paid, maybe they're not, but ultimately they don't have to. So if the content is right and it aligns with what I'm looking for, I think which really good creators can hit those marks pretty well, then I'm more likely to probably spend my money and try something. So we definitely want to leverage UGC and find the right creators to partner with TikTok.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I even see a lot of the times, which I don't know if you guys are planning on doing this, but like founder stories like through personal accounts too. Just like the strategy that you can have of like, this is a brand account, but this is my personal account, like more behind the scenes or my story, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it ties into what you were saying about UGC specific content creators of if people see that, okay, it's someone they already like, or it's someone who looks like them or relates to them, or they like what they're saying, and it's separate from the brand, that's just another viewpoint or another way to kind of relate to that person.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that TikTok has a very robust like affiliate backend. I've never seen it, but I've heard a few people talk about it. And I'm curious because obviously there's a lot of different apps, as we've been talking about technology through this podcast, of just third-party apps that you can obviously manage affiliates. But I guess I haven't heard people talk in detail about the affiliate backend and like being able to search different creators and all that stuff.
I mean, I want to share, and I don't want to like knock anyone, like everyone's at a different stage in their feature development and stuff. I think that TikTok's backend for finding creators is fine. I wouldn't say that it's like amazing, but it works. You know, if you want to just keep it simple and just kind of go through that system, that's fine. We're not really looking to hire an agency right now. We're looking to use all those funds to really like drive TikTok sales without having to pay an agency to help source these creators. So like, which we've done in the past, and there's absolutely a time and a place and value that a good agency can provide. I'm not saying they don't, but for us, like we want to use the funds that we have as a small founder-led brand to really do it ourselves, and the tools that TikTok provides allow us to do that and scale it without things like the wheels falling off.
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
like
and a lot can be said for like
to keep track of everything.
Yeah, exactly. A lot can be said for having something that is good, and like it doesn't need to be like, you may not be at that stage where it's like, I need XYZ crazy, reporting or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Advanced, quote unquote, features are. So I totally love and respect that.
Quite frank, like since we've launched, we've used a couple different agencies for the creator side of things to source UGC, to find partners for us. And we started out using this really, I won't name them because it wasn't a good experience. Like we were paying a lot and they did very little. And honestly, the creators that we got partnered with like didn't feel like they were really as authentically interested as much as they just wanted to get paid, right? And then we worked with an agency last year that I really did love, and they did a really great job of being, over communicating with us on what we needed out of it to create the briefs, to find the right creators to match our brand voice and what we wanted. And a lot of those creators we've worked with again organically, and they follow us and they're fans of the brand, and that's when you find a really good agency that's worth it. But they were also half the price of the other one that we used that didn't do anything. So you really have to vet out the agencies that you're working with if you're going to invest in them, and that can be time consuming in and of itself. So, yeah, we're going to try and do this solo for now. Hopefully we grow it to the point that we can, throw money at an agency to help take it off our hands so we can do the next big thing. That would be the ultimate goal. But right now we're pretty stoked about how TikTok's made it kind of easy just to like get started and get going with your affiliates and make it kind of automated in that way.
Yeah, and I very much applaud and thank you for sharing that, because I know it can be very tumultuous to find the right partner and like vetting, and this is something that I think just comes with entrepreneurship and startups, of just like sometimes you have to make the wrong step to be like, oh God, like learn that lesson and then make the right one, right? So I think it's great that you all are doing the approach that will work for you. I have faith in that. So, but I very much applaud it, because I know our listeners of other founders and operators will be like, yep, been there, done that. And I've done it myself too, as a marketer, where we were working with an agency and it was like, oh, that didn't work for us, Yeah. And then you find great ones who do. Yeah, so
exactly.
I very much relate to that. And the last thing I want to touch upon for customer retention is the customer experience. So obviously different retail versus D2C. Our audience knows D2C, you own a lot of that data. You own a lot of that customer experience. Retail, obviously you're passing it off that it's the retailer's experience, but you're also getting those customers through retail. So they're kind of used to that experience, and that's probably why they return, because they like it. So walk me through, as you're thinking about expanding D2C more, how do you plan to translate, continue concentrating on that customer experience to make sure customers are having a good one?
I mean, every step of the way, as somebody goes through your funnel, you need to be providing value to them in the right way. And so I think at the beginning, it really starts with making sure we're answering all the right questions that the consumer might have once they hit our site. So let's say they fall into our funnel, they hit our website, they're looking at a product page. We need to be answering like all the questions they have. So again, using Shogun and different tools to make it interactive, but throughout, that process, answering what questions they might have that they would need answered in order to make a purchase and buy the product. And from there, making sure that they're getting value through the checkout process, that it's streamlined, it's fast, it's easy, as little clicks as possible, as we all know nowadays. And then that remarketing arm kind of kicks in with better segmentation and making sure that we're communicating to people directly based on what they've purchased, things that they might be interested in based on that purchase, and adding value along the way with either education. For us, we're all about educating, safe ingredients, sustainable packaging. Like that's kind of something we really want to lead with, because we do believe that people want those things, but they want something that works first, and then they want to have the things that make them feel good about that purchase. So we kind of lead with those two things in our communication, but making sure that they're getting the right messaging and we're not just like throwing, spaghetti at a wall to see if it sticks and if it's done. So that's kind of what we're planning on doing in terms of like keeping people coming back. Really excited to share that I checked before we got on this call and we have a 30% customer retention rate on our website.
Oh, so hell yeah. Good for you guys.
I know. I knew we had that last year, and I just checked to see if we kept it over the last quarter. Really, really proud of that metric. And especially not having like a huge focus on D2C, like the customers that we're getting organically, they're coming back and they're repurchasing and they're trying new things. So we're going to definitely keep what we have and just enhance it, and also make it better in terms of the messaging that we're sending out to make it more relevant to people instead of just everyone gets the same email every week kind of a thing.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's like intentional customer experience where it's like every step of the way. Yeah, I love that. And I think that is something I'll put on my consumer hat where it's like, I 100% agree. Quality, like experience with the product needs to be there first, but then customer experience is right behind it. And I even saw a brand on LinkedIn like put in a poll this morning of like, what do you care about most? And like, I forget the percentages, but everyone's first one was quality of the product, and then second one was customer experience. But yeah, and I think your retention rate shows that. So really congrats on that, because I have, I've been doing this podcast for 4 years and some aren't that high. So I know we'll have some listeners who are, cheering you on in their corner for getting that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, yeah, of course. Last question for you is, and it's very timely, honestly, because we've been talking a lot about technology and agencies and partners to work with. So when you're kind of like, okay, I have this, we're having such an influx of orders from TikTok Shop that now I need to pass it off to someone else. Where are you looking? Is it Slack? Is it founder groups? Is it LinkedIn? Where are you kind of finding and sourcing, the tech and the agencies that you work with?
Yeah, so it really very much is founder groups and networking with folks that we have in our, circle that we trust. So we have a really amazing set of advisors at Brixy. A lot of them came over from the advisory team that Kevin had at Think Baby. A lot of them are new, so we've got like probably half that are old from that company, half that are new. And we reach out to them first. We ask them, what do you know? Because a lot of those advisors are previous entrepreneurs themselves, or they're like serial entrepreneurs and they're just really good at their specific niche. Like we've got a guy who's had like 3 or 4 different exits in consumer products in like beverage and snacks and all these things, and he's like amazing at finance and operations. So we ping him and we go, hey, we have a problem with ops, we need to figure this out. What can you share? Drop your knowledge, right? Or if it's data online and like retention, we have a guy for that. And he's started 2 businesses and sold them. Like people that are, experts in their own right, but they've also gone through it. And they can say, here's what I'm hearing about, here's what I've used. But then we also use a lot of like founder networking events, and Trey mostly handles that. He has a really great network down in San Diego of founders that are kind of in the same stage that Brixy's at. Like whether they're in beauty or personal care, or they're in food or beverage, like they're all kind of at the same stage. So it's kind of nice they can come together and really share what's working and what's not in terms of like tools they're using or strategies that they're trying. So we really lean on our founder group, our network, and our advisors for that. Outside of that, let's say we can't, everyone's like, I don't know what to tell you, and we just have to go figure it out. We start Googling.
Yep.
And it's not like that, like crazy scientific, but you can start to tell like who's on the top 10 list of like certain you see their logos and names repeated more often than not. So you start looking at them. And I definitely leverage for marketing specifically. There's I think it's a Slack channel, but it's called For the Clout. And it's basically for marketers. And there's tons of conversations happening all the time. You can ask like the community questions, and then people that have, value to offer you, they can chime in if they'd like to. But I've asked a couple questions on there, and I've had such amazing responses, and people want to help you, which is really great, because like all of these great marketers are at different levels in their marketing journey and experience level. I came from sales, which I feel like I kind of naturally tie into marketing, but there was a lot that I didn't know about. So being able to ask, just I'm looking for an agency for influencer management, top 5, give me your top 5. Like, who is it? Just quick hit, and I just see whose name do I keep seeing repeated more often than not. So there's little tools like that I lean on, but also just we're big on research. We don't do anything fast here at Brixy. Like when it comes to spending money, we like to make sure that every dollar is going to the right place. And so we like to be we like to walk before we run. We like to test things out, and we like partners that do that for us and are not hard closing us, because we're just not a big, huge, business that can just throw money at something, and if it doesn't work out, no problem, So that's kind of our process. We reach out to our network, we look at our founder friends, we look at our advisors, we do our research, we interview, we test, we do all the things. So
we love all the things.
I think that is things, but I also feel like it's the fun part too, as you're trying to, it can be frustrating if you're not finding what you want, but as you go through and you start to feel more educated on something, whatever it is you're looking to fill, whatever need it is, like you start to feel more confident in the decision that you ultimately make, which, is a good thing.
Yeah, and even if it's frustrating in the short term, the long term, you probably will feel better about it, because you did all that research and really dug your heels in and were like, I'm not feeling 100% about this yet. I need to have that assurance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that.
I'm big on data-driven decisions, but I also, we go by gut here at Brixy too. We don't ignore the gut feeling. If something feels off, we're not going to go with it. So I think there's a lot of businesses and operators that, and I'm not saying this is wrong or right, it's just how we do it, that, they only make decisions based on the data. And I think there is a time and a place absolutely to use data to make educated decisions. But there's also that feel a founder has, and knowing what's right for their business and when it's right for their business too.
Yeah, I 100% am a believer that you need a little bit of both, for sure. Yeah, they need to complement each other.
Exactly.
Well, yes, Jen, this has been so much fun to get to chat all about your brand and strategy and all the things that really just fill my cup and just really intrigue me as a human, as a consumer, and as a marketer. So thank you for making the time here today and sharing your expertise with our audience. It has been a blast to have you here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been super fun. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Till next time. Thank you for listening to today's episode. These conversations bring so much knowledge to the table, and I'm so grateful for that. If you haven't already, please subscribe, follow us on social media, and tell us who our next guest should be on our website. Let's give another shout out to our day one sponsor, Malomo. As you know, Malomo is an order tracking platform that enables Shopify brands to take control of their transactional email and SMS through branded order tracking pages. That means you can ditch those boring all white carrier pages. You know, the ones I'm talking about. Everyone has seen an ugly tracking page in their life, and you can swap it with a page that matches your brand. Customers like you and I obsessively check order tracking an average of 4.6 times per order. That's why leading Shopify brands are turning that engagement into customer loyalty and revenue through branded order tracking. Learn more about how to get ahead of shipping issues, brand your order tracking experience, and reconvert customers while they wait for their package to arrive with Malomo. Visit gomalomo.com. That's GOMALOMO.com.